to be available. Whoever can refer in future, this will be published to our forum. So today's agenda is on Excel automation, and this is a continuous to our previous session. So we have series of sessions are planned throughout for this citizen automation, and we will be focusing to expertise with Excel automation today. So myself, Cecil, and I have Lovely. So Lovely will take the first session to drive the detail about StudioX and other stuff. And we will also have an agenda explaining the recap and a detailed dive with Excel automation. So with that, I'll let Lovely to continue this session today. And I hope just to before we start, can anyone raise your hand if you are joining the second session for the first time, or this you have continues to previous session? Like, did you join our last session? If you can raise anyone new in this second session today, if you can raise your hand. Okay, all right, okay. So we have one person. Thanks, Yarpul, for the response. So to bring, okay, so Andrew also we have. So I thought Andrew you're second time joining, but yeah, maybe. All right. So we have quite a few audience who are new. Maybe I'll introduce so that we can connect and understand who we are, what we are doing. So myself, Cecil, I'm part of HP Intelligent Automation team. I'm an automation architect carrying 10 years of experience with automation of various tools. This particular series we have opened focusing towards citizen-led automation to explain you and help you to drive from scratch till make you expert. So there are various agenda planned for this series. I have here Lovely and Nidhi, who is coordinating. Maybe I'll let Lovely to introduce. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Thanks, Shishira. So, hi everyone, I'm Lovely and I work as an automation developer. I have around 4 years of experience in RPA UI path. So, for any queries throughout the session, you can definitely reach out to us. We'll share the LinkedIn profile link in the chat window in short minutes. So, shall we start?
Yes, Lovely, over to you. Let's kickstart. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So, today's second day agenda would be Introduction on Decisions, Iterations, Excel add-in in StudioX. We will touch upon the Excel activities and the project notebook, and then we will have a practical session on Excel automation. Okay. Following with that, we will have question and air session as well. So you can definitely raise your questions in the chat window. We'll be happy to support. Okay. So just let's have a quick recap from the day one session. So StudioX is a tool that is required for an automation purpose with no programming skills. So you need not worry about any coding or any type of programming language that would be required for your development. It can assist you for day-to-day tasks, taking away the tedious repetitive work so that you can focus more on productive and creative areas. So there are different scenarios that can be automated, like filling out the templates, data movement between an applications, file validations, or the interaction with the PowerPoint. So major technology focus scenarios would be Excel, Outlook, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, web applications, PDF files, organizing your files in your local drive. So there could be various scenarios and everything is achievable with the Studio X. Okay. So to install the software, you can navigate to the browser, the clouduipath.com portal. However, when I share the slide, you will also get an installer file. With that, you will be able to install the StudioX in the system. And in the previous session, we discussed on the different panels and the views that is available in the StudioX. So we just had a quick description on what are the different interface that belongs to StudioX. And to start with any automation project in StudioX, you have to create a blank task automation project. Okay, fine. So today we will discuss more on the Excel activities and the different common activities that uh, will be able to support in your automation journey. So these are the different common activities that is available in UiPath Studio X. So you can perform the delay in your automation with the help of delay activity. Similarly, if you would like to use or set the login to any applications, then you can store the credentials with the help of credential activity. You can get the username and password. Similarly, if you would like to display a content, then you can use message box activity. So when I say activity, these are the basically actions that you would like to perform in your automation. Okay. And we have an activity called as repeat number of times. So in case if you are looking forward to perform a task with a given number of times, you can use repeat number of times activity in your workflow. Okay. So let me show you the activities directly in the Studio X. I go to the blank task. Like I mentioned, whenever you start with your automation, you have to create a blank project, give a name to it, click on create, and this is the area where you drag and drop the different activities which you would like to perform. So I go to the common tab where you will see that different activities, irrespective of applications, it is available in this panel. So if you would like to add the delay in your automation, you can drag and drop in your designer area, or you can double click on the activity so that it will be added in a sequential way. Okay, so you can, in case if you are new to uh, the automation Studio X, then UiPath is built in such a way that if even if you do not know about the activities, and if you hover over here, you will see the description message, and with that understanding you will be able to understand what are the functionalities of these activities. Okay, so let's me show you something called save for later. So like I told that Studio X doesn't involve any prerequisite as a programming knowledge. Okay. So with the name as suggested, you can be able to automate your workflow with the help of these descriptions and using these activities. So delay is something that adds a that basically pause the bot for certain number of time duration. Now for save for later, this is an activity which also comes in the common area. So in case if you would like to store some value, then you can use save for later activity. So now let me show you how to add it. So what value you would like to save? So let's say I want to save my name. Okay. So I go to the plus section, I go to the text. So in case if you would like to save some characters, then you can choose the text option. However, if you are looking forward to save any integers or numbers, then you can choose the number. Okay. So I'll just show you the quick example of uh, to save the content, and then you, with the help of message box activity, I will be displaying the content which I have saved for the later use. So this is the value which I am saving, my name. And in the plus, I will just give a name to it as a reference name, that this would store the value of my name. Okay. So in coding terms, we call it as variable, but you need not worry what is the terminology. Based on what the purpose of these activities, you will be able to quickly understand these activities. So I have stored the value lovely in this type of reference name. Now I would like to display the content what I have stored. Okay. So with the help of message box activity, I will be able to display the content which I have stored in to, from, save for later. Okay. So I go to the plus section and directly go to the used saved value and then choose the previous reference name which is storing my name, and this way you will be able to store the content. Okay, so I got an error. It says cannot assign type from system to Excel value. Okay, so let me just go back again. Okay, it says cannot assign type string to UL. So it means that this particular activity needs some conversion with the Excel. So what I would do is, maybe I can take this activity in the Excel flow where I would like to show the content from an Excel. I think that would be the easier to demonstrate. So let me just put the content over here instead of displaying the name. So this is the common activity which you already saw it in the previous session for displaying the content in the message box. Okay. So we will come across the different activities when we talk about the practical scenarios as well. Now, coming to the next agenda, we know that in every flow, we expect the bot to make decisions, right? Whether if the certain condition is met, it has to perform in the positive scenario, or if the condition is not matched, then it would go in the false scenario. So every automation use case, definitely bot is expected to make a decisions. Now, what are the different activities that can help you to make decisions? So this particular topic talks about the activities that can help you to perform decisions. The next is iterations. In case if you would like certain actions to be repeated for number of times, then you can consider using iterations activities. So there are different activities that can help you to perform decisions and iterations. Starting with decisions, we have an activity called if. So if the condition matches, then bot is expected to perform the true scenario. Whereas if the condition is unmatched, then bot is expected to go to the false scenario. So we can see this if activity again in our activities panel. So this is an activity that based on evaluating the conditions, it is going to perform the true part in the then area, and in the show else part, it is going to perform the false area. So we will see how to make the conditions and how to perform these actions in our coming uh, slides when we talk about the practical use cases. Okay. Now, the another activity which we call it as for each is basically used for iterations. So in StudioX, there are three for each activities that interacts with different applications. So in case if you are looking for performing actions repetitively in the Excel, then you have to refer Excel for each row activity. Okay. So the logic would be something that for each items, let's say in an Excel we have 5 rows, right? And we would like to take and take each input from the row at once and then perform the actions. So the logic would be something like the bot reads all the rows and then take and process each row value one by one. So the bot performs the action for first row and then looks for the another item which is available to process, and then it keeps on performing the actions until there is empty content in this section, and once no more items are left, then it will proceed to the next item. The logic is same, but depending on an applications, in StudioX we have got three different activities. So if you're working with an Excel, you can use Excel for each row activity. If you're working in an Outlook, so where you are looking forward to process the different mails, then you can refer Outlook for each mail activity. Whereas if you're looking for a scenario where you have to handle multiple files in a folder, then you can refer system for each file in folder activity. So we are going to use these activities when we talk about Outlook concept or the file and folder automation. For today, we will just use the Excel for each row in our practical use cases. Okay. The next logic is switch activity. So if there is a scenario where value determines the different outcomes, okay, let's take a calculator scenario where bot is expected two values from the user, and it also expects the operator, that whether it is addition, subtraction, and based on the case to case basis, it is expected to perform the calculation itself. So in that type of scenario, we call it as a switch. And with the help of switch activity, you would be able to automate the scenarios where value determines the different outcomes. So you have an expressions and you compute the result, and if it matches to this particular case, then it is going to perform this action. Okay, and there can be n cases, but in case if the cases are not matched, then you can also set up a logic that means default case that will cover all the other possible values which you can ask the bot to proceed with the next actions. Okay, to start with the Excel now, since we have covered the different logics that can be applied in our automation case with the help of if we are looking forward to perform a condition check, whether it is true or it is false. If we are looking forward to perform iteration on the number of rows in an Excel, then we understood about Excel for each row activity. Then we also considered a scenario where we have a switch based scenario where based on the outcome, actions needs to be performed. Let's do the practical approach now. So before starting with Excel, you must install the Excel add-in in StudioX. Okay, so if Excel add-in is not installed, you will not be able to interact with an Excel from the StudioX itself. And currently, it supports only the file with .xlsx and .xlsm extensions. To start with, how to install the Excel add-in? You go to the UiPath Studio X, okay, home section, tools, and there is an add-in available here. So you click on the Excel add-in. It will close all open Excel workbooks. So make sure you save and close your work. You click OK in the warning window. So for me, it was already installed, but it has been repaired. Please restart the Microsoft Excel application. Okay. So my installation of an Excel add-in is done. To proceed with that, we will go to our start section, go to the blank task and create another project for an Excel. Click on create. So make sure you install the add-in first before you actually start your workflow. Otherwise, you will not be able to interact with an Excel. We can see that there is a tab in the activities. So in this category, you will see that different activities are available that can help you to perform your Excel. So I believe everybody will definitely use Excel in their automation because either to store the data or to get the data from or to delete the columns, or you can also use for creating a pivot table, doing some manipulations on the data coming from an Excel. Okay. Okay. So to start with, once the add-in is installed, you have to choose the Excel category from an activities panel, and based on your requirement, you can choose your actions. But before proceeding with the actions and the activities that involves in Excel automation in StudioX, I would like you to also describe about what are the other properties or what are the different files that comes up in an Excel in StudioX. So in UiPath StudioX, we see that there is a notebook tab. Okay. So whenever you create any blank project, a, a notebook file also gets created. Okay. And it is something that can help you to perform data manipulation and calculations. So we will discuss this in the detail, but just know right now that for every project which you create, so if I show you the open project folder, so at this location, along with my workflow file, I will be also having the project notebook, and it is exclusively available in the StudioX. So in case if you're not using any data manipulation still, this file would be available and you can store the temporary data as well. So we will see how to do that. Okay. Now, in the activities panel, we see the resources, we see the actions. To start with any automation in StudioX, we first choose the resources where we identify which application my bot is expected to perform on and provide the details of that applications. So you start with the resource. It's like a father activity and we call it as the activities involved in actions as child activities. Okay. So any child activities in the Excel category should be placed inside this category, in this container. Okay. If you try to use activities outside the container, you will get an error. And same happened for the save for later use as well. So you need to ensure that you use the child activities inside the container. Okay. Now, in the use Excel file, we have to provide the path of an Excel. So I can browse for the file. Let me just take an input file over here. It captures the path. You can set the reference name for your Excel as well. So in case if you're working with multiple Excel files in your automation, to not confuse that which file you're working on, you can provide alias to it. Okay, so instead of every time considering the entire path of the file, it's better to give an alias to each file. So let's take employee data sheet. So in your entire flow, you will see that every file will be recognized by this reference name. So it is good and the best practice to give a reference to your Excel to not confuse or mess up in your development journey. In case if you would like to make save changes into the file whenever all the contained actions you will perform, you can choose save changes. If the file is not available, with this create if not exist option, it is going to create an Excel file and work on it. So these are the two different properties. The third property, we call it as template file. So let's consider a scenario where uh, you are working in an automation case where the file needs to be downloaded or the file needs to be processed in the runtime. So the bot starts with logging into an application, downloads a file, and then perform some manipulations in that Excel and then sends a mail. So in that scenario, you are not asking the bot to work on the local file. It's a running file which will be creating in your execution. So in that type of scenario, you have to ensure that you choose the option called template file. Okay, where the bot will understand that the file which refers as employees data 2 will be created in the runtime. However, when you are automating it, you will definitely show some template file that you can work on. So consider that this is a file which is getting downloaded every time from a portal. Okay, and I just want to use a file for a design purpose so that I can perform the actions over here. So in that case, you can use your local file over here and continue with it. Okay, so this would be the wrong because this is not the local file it should be. So a scenario which I mentioned that the file is getting downloaded and you save that file and that particular path will be coming in this option. But since I do not have any such scenario right now, I have just put the local file destination here. But in your scenario, it would be something that coming from the downloads folder path and the file will be every time dynamic based on download. Okay. So this is applicable only when you are using template file option. So in case if you are not using the runtime data file, then you can uncheck it and provide the local folder file path. Okay. So this is about the different properties in the use Excel file and the other activities that can help you to perform. So we will see this when we talk about our practical use case. So these are the different activities that can help you to perform and you have to start with the use Excel file. So make sure that you put all your actions inside the use Excel file container. Otherwise, you will get an error. We also discussed about the template. Okay. So now I will show you how to get the data from, as well as we will see the use of if activity as well as for each activity. So let's consider a scenario. Okay. So I have an employee Excel file. Okay. So my bot is expected to read the content of the sheet 2 and check whether the D2 cell is empty or not. If it is empty, then it has to write the content like no value provided or blank. Okay. And if it is not empty, then definitely there will be some value stored to it like this. Okay. So let's start with automating this particular flow using if activity and an Excel automation concept. So I have this Excel file path already given here. Now, to check whether the certain cell has a value or not, first we will see the if activity. Okay, because we have to make a conditions that if the cell in this sheet 2 is empty or not. So I go back to my StudioX again, and now go to the plus, and you see that the same reference name is being provided, right? So this is the best way to understand which type of Excel file you are using, and then you can perform the conditions or use that data from it. So in the employee data sheet, it gives two options: indicate in Excel and the custom input. So in case if you would like to read the entire range or the table, then you can use custom input. But in our scenario, it is something that it is hand taking just a one row or taking data from one cell. So I will just use indicate in Excel option. Okay. So I go to the indicate in Excel, and there is a tab called UiPath, which is embedded in the Excel itself. If you have not installed the prerequisite, you will get an error. So you need to ensure that you have installed the prerequisite, add in. Now I select the particular cell. It says current selection sheet 2 D2 cell. I click on confirm. Okay. So this way the bot interacts with an Excel, takes the data. Now I have to build a condition. So I go to the plus section again, condition builder. And in this condition builder, I will check whether the data coming from employee data sheet to D2 cell is empty or not, right? Is empty. So if it is empty, then I have to perform some write operation, right? So I will just write a cell. What to write? So I will just provide the default text, no password provided. Where to write? So we have to write it in the sheet 2 D2 cell. So I go to the plus section again, employee sheet, indicate in Excel, and indicate the particular cell, click on confirm. So this way you can interact with an Excel with the help of Excel add-in. If you're working with the particular cell or particular row, then you can choose indicate in Excel option, and here you go. So let me close the file and run the bot. Okay. So my bot has completed the execution. I'll just show you the file. It interacts with an Excel and checks whether the condition was met or not, and then it provides the password here. So this way you will be able to interact with an Excel. Now consider another scenario where we have multiple rows and we want to perform the same check for each row. So now in the multiple iteration concept, we will make use of something which we already saw, Excel for each row activity. So it has been updated. The package has been updated. So the activity is now called as for each Excel row. So what we have to do is we have to start with an Excel file. Now we have to read the each row one by one, right? So we take the Excel, we read the each row, and now here we have to provide the range. So we just give the employee data sheet and give the appropriate sheet where it has to take data from. So this way you can perform the multiple iterations within an Excel itself. If it has an header, yes, it has an header. If you're performing some manipulations, you can choose save after each row as well. After this, we have to check whether the current row will, for the each current row, whether the D2 cell is empty or not, right? So I go back to my if activity again, and now we will not indicate this employee data sheet because we are trying to iterate each row item. That's why we will take each current row and also specify that for which column you would like to perform an actions. So each current row, temporary password column, I have to build a condition whether it is empty or not. Okay. And this way it is, the current row would be something dynamic, keep on changing until it has finished all the row action items. If it is empty, then again I will have to use write cell, and this time what to write, I will just give the context, no password, where to write. So we will not use employee data sheet because we have to work with the multiple rows. I'll go to the current row, temporary password, and this way you will be able to work with the different scenario. So let me just disable this activity. We no longer want to perform single iteration. We want to increment the row, yes, and now save the file, close it. Okay, so I think there is something incorrect here. So we have the sheet 1 which has multiple rows, right? So I close this file and just ensure that I choose the correct sheet name in the for each. So I choose the employee data sheet, sheet 1. Okay, and it will not impact other things because both the sheet has the same columns, so it shouldn't impact. Now I just run the file. Okay, let's see the file, and you see it takes the each row activity, checks whether the password is available or not, it sets the value. If the password exists, it goes to the false scenario and there is no such actions needs to be performed, therefore it doesn't do anything, and then proceeds with the next set of items. So this way you can perform multiple iterations in within an Excel with the help of for each Excel row activity. Okay. Hope this is clear. The next topic, the project notebook. So like I told, it is an Excel workbook that you can use as a scratch pad, and it's a separate file that is created every time in your automation purpose. Now I will show you the use of Excel file. So let me just comment out. You can disable the activity by right click and disable activity option. So first I'll show you the notebook. So this is something which can help you to perform iteration. Okay. So this project notebook has different sheets, scratchpad, date, text, number, file. So in case if you like to perform any manipulation called file, so let's say uh, you want to get the particular file name, right? Then you can make use of this table. How to do that? So you can see that for each file name, this project notebook computes whether it is a file name. It also gives you the extension from this entire path. It gives the file name with no extension, and it also gives the folder path as well. So you can make use of this notebook in your automation. So if I quickly show you, let's consider this is a path name and how to get this value from. So there are other scenarios as well, like if it is you want to perform a number manipulation, you give the number here and then you can compute the required operation, whether you want a reformatted number. If you want to give the decimal separator as something else, you can provide it like this. Similarly, for the text functions, if you would like certain text you provide and you want to perform the uppercase operation or the lowercase operation, then you can make use of this project notebook for these type of functions. Similarly, for the date, you can perform, if you would like to know what would be the last week dates, then based on the input, you can perform this type of manipulation. So let me quickly show you how to do that. Okay. So let's consider a scenario where I have to display the today's date. Okay. And this date, I am not taking input from a user. I am just using it from the project notebook itself. So what I will do is go to the plus section, notebook, date sheet, right? And then I will just make use of the same function itself. So whatever the options or the cell value which you saw in the sheet is available here. So like the way it is available here, right? The date input, today, last week dates, same concept or the same columns are available in the StudioX itself. So you go to the notebook section, date, and then choose the required value. Okay, so let me save it. And for time being, what I'll do is, so it already has the current date today, system date. So it will just display the format what it has in the today option cell. Okay, I close it. And this is the today format which it has manipulated from the project notebook. So whatever you make the bot to write in this particular cell, so if you write any content in this particular cell, you can get the output by performing the type of operations directly from the sheet. You need not worry about what are the functions that can help you to convert any date input to the last week date or the last month date. It will be automatically calculated. You just have to use this data from this project notebook as an output. Okay. So, yeah, here it is about the project notebook. Okay, there are other activities that you can perform in the Excel. So, now I will hand over to Shishira and he will demonstrate about the activities that can help you to perform with. Shishira, over to you.
Thanks, lovely. Thanks. This is great. So, team, so far you got a glimpse about what is the detail about your StudioX with Excel. How do you interact starting from scratch? Okay, so starting with a quick recap in terms of how do you configure the one of the mandatory part is installing Excel add-in, and then once your Excel add-in is ready, there are a bunch of activities available to play with this. Let me share my screen and I'll try to create one Excel activity. As you know, how to create, just open your StudioX, click on new project, blank task, give a meaningful name. Okay, so this will create all your workspace. Basically, if you see the few key points to note. So what I'll focus towards is next 10 minutes to make you understand what are the key components attached with Excel and how do you really play with it. So while your project created, you need to see where this project created, what key components are there. Just click on this project folder. During your project development, may not be this is useful, but sometimes it is really important to understand how your workflow structure is and where is that project notebook available. So anytime you create any project, why it is necessary, you should have an Excel add-in install because if you see here, there is a project notebook.xlx file which by default get created whenever you add any project. So if I open it, it has all these contents which we see. Uh, Lovely was showing okay all these logics, and this you can always consider as a utility file. The moment you provide some data, let's say there are formulas already been given as a goodies or different Excel formulas given as a built-in library, you can say, which will help us in our day-to-day activity. And if you think this is not fixed, right? Even I can introduce one more sheet, add my own business logic, which can further be useful during my regular task automation. So basically, whenever there is any business rule, I can come here, write certain formulas which I'm aware of my process, and take advantage of this particular project notebook. That's how the project organized whenever you create any whenever you create any StudioX project workbook or any project you create or task automation create. Now, like any other, in future also will come across various other type of task automation. There are one standard flow you need to just remember, maybe structure need to follow whenever you are creating any StudioX workflow. First is you need to drag any resource wherever suppose I'm working with Excel. That means I will drag one resource and create a workspace here, and further to that I'll start using any actions. Same way, if you start working with email, you will drag a resource which is attached to email. Suppose I'm working with any UI or a web browser. Similarly, I'll drag any resource. So remember, whenever you are coming across our future sessions, you will see the skeleton remains same. You just need to follow the skeleton and then start working on building your task automation on top of it. The formula is simple. First is, suppose as we are focusing towards, let's say, Excel automation, my first activity on this main development canvas would be bring your Excel resource and create a workspace on top of what Excel you are trying to perform the work. That is first action will perform in future as well. When we come across suppose CSV, I'll drag a CSV resource, create a workspace on that, and then define all the relevant activities or actions we call relevant actions within this and build the structure. It remains same throughout all different process. How it varies only in case of common activity which does not depends on any Excel, UI, CSV, mail, presentation. Those are the areas which we might not. For example, I want to save some name somewhere, some message box. They're common activities which we don't need to rely on those. For example, I can write line. It doesn't depend on these resources, which is part of the common activity. But until this is coming across the application specific, you'll always see there is a resource. Bring the resource first. That's the first formula. Now let's choose one of the file. Before the session, I try to create exercise files so that we can work on top of it. So that's why we say there is first you need to choose which file you are working on. As W was saying, for example, there's a certain scenario where you might not have the Excel file, it is dynamic downloading. At that time, you can go by a template file to build your workflow. Now here, as per the best practice, always give a meaningful name, because this will always, by default, it will give you a name of Excel, but it's not a standard best practice when it comes to a production-based development. Give a meaningful name. Let's say I have employee information. I can say employee Excel or exercise Excel. So give a meaningful name, because the entire Excel is going to be referred with this name throughout these activities or actions you're going to perform. No matter whatever the action you perform, it will always be referred with this. So it's always a best practice. How many of Excel file you will be dragging across, always rename this reference name. That's the best practice. Now let's say what different activities I have and how to play with it. So there are a bunch of activity which you see. There are, let's say, append range, autofill, clear, proceed, or delete, insert, creation of sheets, creation of columns, filter, for each, all different activities available. But now I'll just focus on a couple of things. For example, let's say I want to do a pivot. Let's say we always do it, play with pivot. So how do we create a pivot table inside Excel? So just go here. I'm still focusing with the favorite section with Excel so that I hope all my activities or actions are filtered with that. So this is available. You see, change pivot data source, create pivot table, refresh pivot, and export to CSV. But one relevant which I can pick is, let's say, create pivot table. So I have Excel. Let me bring that uh, exercise file. This is my exercise file. So I have few name, salary, department. I've just created a simple Excel exercise file. Normally in Excel, this is very common practice for business to create a pivot table to see what is happening. So it's very easy interface. Just drag the activity and start following what is being asked. So source, where is my source where it's asking to perform? So source could be the same. Just click on this plus and click on indicate in Excel. What will happen now? It will bring that entire window, select and click on confirm, because as my RDM is installed, it's selected the entire range. It's giving any new table name. So I can give my pivot one. So this is the pivot name I can give. Where is the destination I want to create this? So let me again choose a destination. Like always we do pivot, create here pivot, it will go to a different sheet. So let's say I'm selecting a different sheet as a destination. Now still there are sections we need to define whenever you create any pivot table. Say which is your rows and column. For example, I say my rows is current department. If you see select this is for the current range, it says okay, this is my department. It should be row, column, and all. If you see the normal pivot, it will come as a department wise. So I just selected rows will be my department. Again, I can add some values as well. So let's say what would be my value? Let's say sum of salaries. So I say this would be my values. I'll immediately prompt value should be count, what not. So it should be sum. So if you see the logic is here, I'm just doing what we are doing on Excel. Generally, when we create any pivot, what we do just basically we create a pivot table, define what would be a row, what should be a column, what should be the value. In this case, I'm just selecting my rows and values. Now, if I run this, it will perform the same action. I will create a pivot on a sheet 2, read the entire Excel. So this execution completed. If you see, this is created my pivot. So this is my department. This is the sum of all the information. So that's how it. This is pretty simple to use it. Create pivot with dynamically. This is necessary. Assume there is a scenario you need to create this pivot and save it in a PDF file. So as such, there is a PDF option. So you will have a PDF activity available here. Save Excel file as PDF. I can say here, drag it. So the entire employee document will go to a PDF. Let's say result, create and run it again. I'll show you the PDF file. So its execution completed. I'll go to project location from here, project folder. This result.pdf is created. Let's see how it comes, the entire input file and the pivot set. You may need to send it, you will see in future session if how can you send it over email, but that can be possible. That is one. And there are various bunch of activity like you can play with like this. One cool feature you can see is VLOOKUP. Generally, the VLOOKUP we do to search any particular record. For example, assume I have some name here. So some records are saved. These are another sheet. There are certain names are saved. In case we want to filter, what should be here, or what would be my, let's say, salary or department from this particular Excel, we do this VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP helps us to find some values with respect to some Excel. So this is also same, the way we followed the same create pivot. If you see the same structure, you just need to follow the sequence like value to lookup. You can say, okay, I want to value what I'm searching for. Thus, I'm searching for this name. This is my value. Under what range I'm searching. So you can go to, so let's see, C1 is my range, entire range that's having all the values. What column you want to print it? You can say I want to print number 3, that's my department. And which is the section you want to save it. So after the output section, so just select here. So that indicate my entire VLOOKUP. Now if you go back to Lovely's last session, to make it a loop, you can also use a for each and write this entire VLOOKUP within a for each so that it will iterate over one by one row. That is one way to VLOOKUP. And if I do this, let me show you. Let me delete this one, run this flow, and show you how the VLOOKUP happens for one row at least. While we are close to time, I'll give a tips. Now this VLOOKUP may be done. So see, this first row is done. This is one way you can do it through VLOOKUP with a for each as well. So as a skeleton flow, I will show you what will happen now. If you bring a for each Excel row on top of this and drag it within, you just need to tweak this and this will work. That's one way of for each. But I'm just trying to show you as a tip on not on this approach, but with the autofill as well, right? Generally, if you see the VLOOKUP, we can do with a formula. How the formula is? For example, I say VLOOKUP, this name in my sheet, this is my normal formula, right? So I say I want to print the number 3 with false. Now this is the formula which helps us to do VLOOKUP. Generally, what business does, double click on this, it will be autofilled. Now same thing I will try to replicate in my Excel. So what I'll do, let me write a cell. The right cell is basically writing something on my Excel. I'll do that. So what to write? What to write is my formula, which I already copied. This is my formula. Where to write? This will be my indicator in Excel. This is the place I want to write it. So if I go back, let me delete this entire thing. So I don't have anything now. So this particular write cell will take care about writing my first formula on this. Once the formula is done, what I can do, as you see the autofill concept, bring your autofill here, which will, again, I can say which formula I need to autofill. I can indicate on the first cell to autofill entire section. When you click on the double click, right, whenever there is formula and you click on this, that's autofill. That's nothing but this autofill in that section. If I run this one, it will write that formula on that particular cell and just autofill the entire section. So you see how fast it performed. If you do it in a for each loop, you can take that as an action item and do it in offline. You see this particular approach will do it faster as compared to for each because it will go by iteration over iteration one by one row. But autofill will just do it with one single flow. So this is one tip in terms of saying the solution. Many automation solution you can do in a many other way, but always find the appropriate way to make it faster and robust. That's one tips to always take care when you are developing some solution. Just to quickly, as we are closing towards time, we know we are over 2 minutes, but I'll just wrap it in next 2 minutes. Some common issues you might face while you are interacting with Excel. It is very common when suppose your Excel is not responding. You did all the Excel add-in installation, but not working properly. That's a very common scenario when you have done some Excel Office upgrade. So there are certain registry which might be not working. So that time you will have those issues. That's why what UiPath has done is they have given apps here, integrated apps, a repairing tool. Just run this repair tool, click on it, select your Excel, whichever is causing this one, which is the path which you are using. Click on this generate plan. It will identify what possible scenario which needs to be fixed in your registry and run this repair action. It will try to fix the entire issue. After doing this, you may need to do a restart because registry change is happening. After still it is not working, we'll recommend you can do a fresh Office installation by removing your Office uh, uninstall. Use the Office uninstall tool, not like control panel. What this will do is it will completely remove your registry and do a clean uninstall and do a fresh installation, and that after that it should work. So that is one of the best practice you can always check. And there is a dedicated training available for Excel in our academy. So there is a link available here, academy.uipa.com. If you go there, so there is a 2 hour and 30-minute dedicated training which makes you expertise with Excel. So you can play with this as well. This is a very good use cases available to explore. With that, maybe a common scenario, I'll just give you some food for thought while you are working, maybe while you are working on day-to-day operation. What is the common business case you can take back? Like there could be scenarios which is MEC and QEC reconciliation project, which maybe you are working or reporting. Pivot and VLOOKUPs are very commonly used in business. Daily reporting in Excel, managing your daily transaction or storing some operational information, which is very common what we do in business. So you can identify those areas which is Excel related and create a very useful StudioX automations on using those. With that, I am open for any question, but please subscribe to our upcoming session, which is on mail and file handling on 4th March. Subsequent to that, there are other sessions as well. Okay, so any question, and we overshoot by 4 minutes, but yeah, we can stay for a few more minutes just to answer your questions. One question I'll just try to iterate, which I got over email, sorry, not in email, but on a private chat during this session is, can we convert a StudioX workflow to Studio? So StudioX workflow can always be converted back to Studio, but the reverse may not be possible always. So that's one thing just to iterate. You can always open StudioX workflow. You can have a Studio profile and open it directly open. It will run as is. So that's where the COI come into picture to make your workflow reusable across enterprise. That is one of the areas we will deep dive on 17th March. Okay, so if there are no question, we have posted our, thanks Lovely for posting, we have our LinkedIn details. If you have any further question, maybe offline, we can definitely connect and reach out to us on LinkedIn or in forum, or we'll definitely reach out and answer our queries. Okay, so if there is no question, maybe we are good to close the session. Thank you all for joining today's session. So we will sign up today and look forward to meet you on 4th March.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.